Good Friday morning, everybody. Welcome back. You're watching the Kaiser Report. Kaiser and I are here today to give you a few bits of information that you maybe have missed over the last day or two. We took yesterday off. We're coming to you today with a weekend report, and there's a lot going on. In case you haven't been tuned to the news, there is more marches taking place in New York City. We watched a lot of that yesterday. A lot of it was slightly violent in some areas, mostly really peaceful, but a lot of marching with misinformation and just an overall lackluster behavior and signs that were obviously came from a printer and costly. The No Kings was part of that march, but the big part of that march was over the fact that on Canal Street up near Little Italy, where the illegals are selling their wares on the sidewalk in front of businesses that are trying to make it in New York City, have been out there selling fake knockoffs and in some cases stolen good from where they had the smash and grabs that took place, and then they put it on the street and sell it at a reduced price. We have a lot of women that go there from other states or visiting from other countries to buy the cheap knockoffs that you see all the time on the streets of New York, especially down near Chinatown on Canal Street, where you can go get knockoff Louis Vuittons, which are really Louis Vietnams. When you stop and think about it, they look like what is real, but not. There's been no crackdown on this all through the de Blasio mayorship. Adams didn't do much about it at all, and the police ignore it in most cases, with exception of a few roundups here and there that they did in Little Italy a few years back. But now, since the migrants have gotten into the business, they are just opening up on the sidewalk in front of legitimate businesses that have the permits and have the wherewithal to sell these goods, and are just ignored now. As ICE went through there to find some of the people that were selling these goods yesterday, we have the fringe left that are either paid to march in New York or get upset over every little nuance that happens in that city. They're out there in droves now against ICE and against Donald Trump for the rounding up of some of these career criminals that were selling these goods in the streets of New York. It's not funny when you stop and think about it that some of these people are wanted in their own countries for crimes as bad as murder in some cases. Whoever thought? And then you have the news media that largely goes along with the fact that, we shouldn't have ICE, abolish ICE. And then we have a government that has people in it that want to put an app up onto social media to dox and let you know exactly where ICE is at any given point in time. They can do this with anybody if you stop and think about it. It is not a fun thing to know that they can come in and let you know exactly where a car is at any given time or where the president's airplane is or anything else. They have these capabilities to do it. But to be pushed forward by our lawmakers into doing this is really, really something to behold, that they can actually get away with doing something like that. But we'll talk to you a little later about what was ignored and nothing was said back 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago by sitting presidents and sitting Congress people many are still there. You saw the other day in our Wednesday program the years that are spent in seats by individuals who have done nothing for this country but enriched themselves. J.D. Pritzker was on with Brett Baer yesterday and talked about his look at what's going on there in Chicago and about his inability to accept the fact that the government wants to come in and help them clean up their criminal element in that city. And he should be literally ashamed of himself at what he says and does. And Donald Trump is exactly right when he says he's one of the worst governors that has ever governed a state in this country, along with that other idiot out there in California with the hand signals that thinks that he is presidential material and probably is in love with himself. And now he's going to call on God in heaven to judge Donald Trump. That's a stretch, isn't it, folks? But let's take a look at Pritzker right here.
Across the board, President Trump and the federal government have dodged accountability and dismantled the institutions responsible for checking that corruption and overreach that they're committing.
I have this guy Pritzker is a very weak governor. Let me be nice. I'm going to be very nice. He's extremely weak. He's pathetic. I have Pritzker get up and say how great they're doing in Chicago. They're doing very poorly.
Well, you have this effort to track ICE. The Illinois Accountability Commission announced today to create this public record of federal law enforcement agents, determines how to collect testimony, hold hearings, interview individuals, record what could be used to pursue justice and accountability on them, right?
Yes.
So what do you say to the people who look at that and say, you know, ICE is taking bad guys off the streets of Chicago?
Listen, it's great. Go get Tren de Aragua. That's not what happened. Remember, they attacked a building with 130 people in it, and they got a couple of gang members.
All right. Let's take a look.
Fox's Chelsea Torres is live in Chicago tonight. And Chelsea, the feds say they were targeting Venezuelan gang members in that apartment raid.
Yep, that's right, Caroline. You know, federal agents actually said they had intel on 6 high-profile targets at that apartment who may be affiliated to Tren de Aragua. Some of those caught this month was a child sex offender, a burglar, and a member of that Venezuelan gang. Officers flooded into the building on foot. Others landed on the top of the complex by a helicopter. DHS told Fox that agents arrested nearly 40 people in this raid.
Remember, they attacked a building with 130 people in it, and they got a couple of gang members.
He's pathetic.
Why does Chicago have the highest murder rate of all the big cities?
Well, we are not in the top 30 in terms of our murder rate. Indeed,
the murder
our murder rate it has been cut in half over the last 4 years, and every year it's gone down by double digits. And if you look at all of the violent crime over the last 4 years,
here's a map.
They've all gone down.
U.S. cities, 17.47 per 100,000 population. Chicago is number 1 over Philadelphia, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Phoenix, Los Angeles, New York, and San Diego.
What I'm explaining to you
now,
is
you're
when
talking
you want
about
to fight
violent
crime. Look, you can pull statistics up.
No,
I can
these are
too.
murders.
I'm explaining to you that our murder rate has been cut in half.
Why does Chicago have the highest murder rate of all the big cities?
Well, we are not in the top 30 in terms of our murder rate.
All these people make me sick.
What's it thinking, Colonel?
It's afraid. It's afraid!
This is a guy that should not have been in charge of a state or even a candy store, in my estimations. Well, speaking of media, the big current meltdown in media is over the ballroom meltdown that the media just doesn't understand and wants to drive a wedge again in between us and this government, current administration, over the fact that there has been demolition to a walkway on the East Wing to make way for the ballroom that is being paid for by donations and the president himself. It's not costing the taxpayers one penny, not a cent. But yet they're up in arms over the fact that the ballroom is going to be accredited to this president. And as you understand fully by now, nothing this president can do, whether good or magnificent, will ever be given credit to him for his accomplishments. They just cannot do it. They just have such hatred for one man that they cannot fathom the idea that he may get some credit for something good that happens, whether it is a peace agreement between warring factions or otherwise. It can't be him. It can never be him, because he won an election that they cannot get over the fact that he won. Like it or not, he is our president. He has put together and garnered a cabinet of people that are well versed in how to accomplish the things that need to be accomplished to bring this country back to its grandeur that it once was and will be again under the tutelage of Donald J. Trump, like it or not. But let's take a look at the ballroom meltdown and how our press secretary amply handled the question and put the facts out into the public domain, which the media will never, ever want to show you because it makes them the liars that they are. Take a look here.
The White House has explained that the reason you didn't submit construction plans to the NCPC is because that commission, along with others, don't have oversight over demolitions, but only over construction. And so far, you haven't built anything. So can you help us understand, can the president tear down anything he wants without oversight? Can he demolish this building or, say, the Jefferson Memorial?
So it's not the president who came up with that legal opinion himself. That's a legal opinion that's been held by the NCPC for many years. It's written, so we can get you that background and that research if you wish to include it in your reporting, because it is very important. They have ruled consistently. Their general counsel has said when it comes to phase one of this project, the tearing down of the current East Wing structure, a submission is not required legally for that. Only for vertical construction will a submission be required, and that's a legal opinion from them, and we are following that legal opinion. And again, I would just add, can any president do such a thing to the White House grounds? There have been many presidents in the past who have made their mark on this beautiful White House complex. This briefing room, as you all know, was not once a briefing room. It was a swimming pool. There have been presidents who have completely torn down the executive mansion. If you look at what President Truman did, some of the photos of the construction project that took place in those years, I think sitting here today, we're all grateful for those efforts and the modifications that happened at that time. And again, in due time, the East Wing is going to be more beautiful and modern than ever before. And in addition, there will be a big, beautiful ballroom that can hold big parties and state visits for generations to come.
So it sounds like the answer is yes, he can tear down whatever he wants. And then secondly,
that's not what we're saying. That's a legal opinion that's been held for many years. And
interpreting it.
No, it's something that presidents have done for years and years. In fact, I have some photos here. Thank you, Pat, to show you the construction that's taken place on the White House grounds. This is the construction of the West Wing in 1902. Look at this, the construction of the West Terrace in 1902. These images look quite similar to what you and the American people are seeing today, the construction of the East Terrace as well. You look at the construction of the West Wing expansion in 1934. So look, this is a legal opinion that's been held for many years. Look at, this is 1950. It looks a lot like what you were seeing today.
Can he demolish anything he wants?
What do you think that
oversight?
rubble is? How did that rubble get there?
Right, so I'm asking, and then back to the donors.
Go ahead, Reagan.
Many of them are...
Reagan, go ahead.
It's incredible, but they are told now the truth about the new ballroom and what has been destroyed and what has been changed by previous presidents and previous administrations that occupied that wonderful White House. Well, that's going to take us into something that I read recently, and I'm going to give you a synopsis of where the media goes with things, where our government officials have gone in the past, and we're going to take a little walk through history, recent history, and we'll see what you make of this. When millions of illegals were ushered into the southern border, they said nothing. When they abandoned millions of dollars worth of military equipment in Afghanistan, they said nothing. When they covered up the Hunter Biden laptop, they said nothing. When they passed a $1 trillion infrastructure bill that failed miserably, they said nothing. When they forced Americans to take untested vaccine, they said nothing. When inflation crushed the middle class, they said nothing. When they sent billions to the Ukraine, they said nothing. When chemicals polluted the water in East Palestine, Ohio, they said nothing. When they implanted Kamala as presidential nominee, they said nothing. She never got a single vote. When billionaire and anti-American George Soros backed the election of a lot of city and state AGs, attorney generals, they said nothing. When they spent tax dollars on inmate transitions from men to women and vice versa, they said nothing. When they gave citizens of Hawaii who lost their entire city, they said nothing. When they gave free money, food, and 5-star hotel lodging to illegals in sanctuary cities, they said nothing. When they came for our free speech and took it away, they said nothing. When DEI weakened the military and put our national security at extreme risk, they said nothing. When they colluded with the media to push false reports, they said nothing. When it was open season on law enforcement and criminals reigned supreme, they said nothing. When they weaponized the justice system to take down their political opponents, they said nothing. When the bureaucrats took over the White House and ran the government using the auto pen, they said nothing. When they covered up Biden's rapidly declining mental state, they covered it up and said nothing. When they groomed our children in our schools and hid that from the parents, they said nothing. When the drug epidemic exploded and thousands died annually over the use of these illegal, illicit drugs, they said nothing. When they weaponized the intelligence agencies against Americans, they said nothing. When they spent $45 million on diversity and inclusion, scholarships in the country of Burma, they said nothing. When they let men play women's sports, they said nothing. When they chanted death to America and burned our flag, they said nothing. When they shut down our energy production and emboldened Russia to take over the Ukraine, they said nothing. When 300,000 migrant children went missing and unaccounted for, where no one had a clue of where they are, they said nothing. When Joe Biden pardoned all his friends and family and hardened murderers from jail, they said nothing. When they spent billions and sent it to Iran in a plane load, they inadvertently funded Hamas to do the atrocities that they pulled off. They said nothing. When men celebrated for pretending to be women, you said nothing. They said nothing. when they let Chinese spy balloon fly across this beautiful country of America, mapping everything that we have. They said nothing. When 50 intelligence agents all lied on a piece of paper to bury Hunter Biden laptop extravaganza that took place, they said nothing. When Facebook admitted that they conspired with Biden administration to censor the truth, they said nothing. When they cleaned the streets of San Francisco for the arrival of the communist president, Xi Jinping, they said nothing. When Fauci and the WHO, not the rock band, but the World Health Organization, peddled the COVID-19 virus lies and covered up its origins, they said nothing. When they sealed January 6th commission files or accidentally lost them, as they're now saying, they said nothing. You saw this corruption and lies, the bad policy, the anti-American agenda, and then said nothing. So please spare us your crocodile tears, your fake marches and hysteria. We watched it for 4 years in this country, being run into the ground, and on all fronts, the media and our politicians on the left side of the aisle said not a word. It's our turn now to get behind President Donald J. Trump, his cabinet and administration, and make America great once again. And we're well on our way if the media will stop the lies and the propaganda that is being put forth by the fringe left of the media and the left side of the aisle. The shutdown is not coming to an end. And the reason it's not coming to an end is that Schumer, Jeffries, and all of the old guard that was the Democratic Party are running scared for their existence, being threatened by the fringe radical left of the party that was allowed to win elections and gain seats in both our House and Senate, with all bad intent of bringing socialism and communism into our great nation. There's no room for it here, and people are now, at least 77 million of us, realized that last November. And we need to back what we elected now to bring an end to all of that. God bless this administration and its efforts to bring back common sense and reality to a beautiful, wonderful Constitution and government that was brought to us by our founding fathers and built on God. So that's a recap of what's taken place in the last 10 years. And I hope and I pray that now that it's our turn, we can do it and do it without the lies, cheating, and deceit that we have experienced in the last 10 or more years of our government officials and the propaganda arm of the media have been lying to us about. And that'll bring us to the exit to Stupid Town, where you'll see some of this alive and well, the remnants of what they want to keep going on in this country. And my fear with New York is that they will elect Mandani to try and keep their hope and dream of a communistic country alive. But it will fail, and it will fail miserably. Here's the exit.
A guy walked up to me at customer service with a Trump 2028 hat. The other employee next to me spoke with him about the hat. He said, "You must get a lot of reaction to that. Get people really riled up." And the guy said, "Yeah, that's why I wear it. You should see the shirt I'm wearing. Had that Charlie boy on it. I didn't even cry when my mother died. But I cried when he died." His hat said Trump 2028. And he just wants to make people mad.
We're out here at the No Kings protest and we're asking all the important questions. Such as, if Trump was elected, how exactly is he a king?
Because he is trying to take control of everything. Like his checks and balances are not working. So he is just trying to completely disregard the Constitution.
He's trying to do whatever he wants. I don't know. I feel like a lot of amendments have been kind of overcome, like in a way that they're not supposed to be.
Wait, which amendment specifically?
The whole, the first one,
trying to take away our
freedom of protesting.
I would say that it's because even though he was elected, I agree, due process, he got what he got elected fairly, sure, but he's doing things that make him a king, like he's taking away, civil rights.
That's a great question. I don't particularly think he's a king, it's how people are viewing him as.
Actively switching the levers of power in order to subvert elections.
And what does that mean?
Things such as trouble coming up with words.
CNN is completely irrelevant, and I'm not being mean. I'm not being, I really mean it. Somehow they've figured out a way to not. Come on, spit it out. To not be appealing to anyone for any reason. Is there any clip that I've ever seen in which I believe that Scott Jennings is telling anything remotely close to the truth? What the F are you talking about, right, Scott? What are you even talking about? Do you even hear yourself? And I know that they do hear themselves, but it doesn't matter anymore. They're just literally mouth breathers that are just filling space and getting the paycheck.
Boy, if that isn't the pot calling the kettle black.
Scott Jennings is not good TV. He's there for one reason, because if he wasn't there, I think that there would be even more pressure, whether it was at the FCC or at, with donors or with the oligarchs that own CNN from the Trump administration.
The oligarchs that own CNN from the Trump administration.
That's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
And what really killed me was last Christmas, we canceled a song that was written in the 1940s called Baby It's Cold Outside. People were triggered by that song. Radio stations wouldn't play it. They said it had toxic masculinity in it, and they said that the lyrics had suggestions of male sexual aggression, which is fine if you feel that way. But at the exact same time, the #1 song in this nation for over 2 months was entitled Wet. Ladies and gentlemen, I am not making that up. Google it. Check me out on that. I'm not lying. For over 2 months, the #1 song was played on the Grammys. It also won the Best Hip Hop Song for the American Music Awards and the People's Choice Awards. And so I thought it would be fun to compare and contrast the lyrics of these two songs to see if indeed this country has lost its mind. Now, let's begin with the horribly offensive Christmas song written just after World War II, Baby It's Cold Outside. I really can't stay, baby, it's cold outside. I gotta go away, baby, it's cold outside. This evening has been so very nice. Yeah, you f***ing with some wet ass. Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet ass. Beat it up, N-word, extra large, extra hard. Put this in your face, swipe your nose like a credit card. I submit to you that this nation has lost its mind, everybody.
I hope you enjoyed our visit to Stupid Town today. And I hope that you'll stay tuned here to the Kaiser Report for more information as it comes and happens. You know, we have the 24th day of the shutdown going on with no end in sight because of the fear of the left of losing their foothold to the new up-and-coming Muslim-driven, fringe, far left that believe that they are going to reap the benefits of a shutdown that is only harming the people that are doing the work of the people that are not being paid right now. And they've even made the statements, until planes fall from the sky, they're not going to even consider reopening the government. That's a heck of a thing to call for the death of innocent people, to get your way in your government changes that you think are beneficial to who? A scant few, while the rest of us pay for it all. It's a beautiful fall weekend here in East Tennessee. I'm hoping you're experiencing a beautiful fall. The weather here is cool and conducive to getting out, breathing that fresh air, and renewing your mind, and also renewing your faith in God Almighty that He has His hand on the back of our president and some of our government officials to make the right decisions. God is back and the battle begins. Whether or not we end up in a civil war is to be determined. The left-hand side of the aisle is hell-bent on getting something to take place such as that to prove their point. But they're going against God and the archangels that will not permit that to happen. This country was built on faith in God, and the faith in God is coming back. There is a resurgence in faith right now, and faith-based understanding of what is needed, and prayer is needed, and prayer is needed badly. You need to realize that through prayer all things are possible. So if you haven't been to your church or house of worship, no matter what denomination you support, get out and visit them this weekend. Say a prayer for our president, say a prayer for our nation, and say a prayer for the world to come to peace one more time, under God, indivisible. We cannot let this country in this world be divided. Through division, they win. Through unity, we stay together. God bless you all, and remember, stay safe, stay strong, and stay tuned to the Kaiser Report. We'll be back here next week with more news and an outlook at what took place over the Sunday shows that I can hardly wait to see the lies and the hate that come out of those. Until Monday, have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye now.